We forfeit 3/4 of ourselves in order to be like other people. A sense of humor is the only divine quality of man. Treat a work of art like a prince, let it speak to you first. Thus, the task is not so much to see what no one yet has seen, but to think what nobody yet has thought about that which everybody sees. Compassion for animals is intimately associated with goodness of character, and it may be confidently asserted that he who is cruel to animals cannot be a good man. The person who writes for fools is always sure of a large audience. It is difficult to find happiness within oneself, but it is impossible to find it anywhere else. Great men are like eagles, and build their nest on some lofty solitude. Religion is the masterpiece of the art of animal training, for it trains people as to how they shall think. A high degree of intellect tends to make a man unsocial. Talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see. A man can be himself only so long as he is alone, and if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom, for it is only when he is alone that he is really free. All truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as self-evident. Hope is the confusion of the desire for a thing with its probability. Mostly it is loss which teaches us about the worth of things. Life is a constant process of dying. No rose without a thorn, but many a thorn without a rose. Wealth is like sea water, the more we drink, the thirstier we become, and the same is true of fame. If we were not all so interested in ourselves, life would be so uninteresting that none of us would be able to endure it. Life swings like a pendulum backward and forward between pain and boredom. The life of every individual, viewed as a whole and in general, and when only its most significant features are emphasized, is really a tragedy, but gone through in detail it has the character of a comedy. To feel envy is human, to savor Schadenfreude is devilish. He who writes carelessly confesses thereby at the very outset that he does not attach much importance to his own thoughts. The business of the novelist is not to relate great events, but to make small ones interesting. Reading is thinking with someone else's head instead of one's own. We seldom think of what we have, but always of what we lack. Sleep is the interest we have to pay on the capital which is called in at death, and the higher the rate of interest and the more regularly it is paid, the further the date of redemption is postponed. I have long held the opinion that the amount of noise that anyone can bear undisturbed stands in inverse proportion to his mental capacity, and therefore be regarded as a pretty fair measure of it. If we suspect that a man is lying, we should pretend to believe him, for then he becomes bold and assured, lies more vigorously, and is unmasked. To free a man from error is to give, not to take away. Knowledge that a thing is false is a truth. Error always does harm, sooner or later it will bring mischief to the man who harbors it. Ordinary people merely think how they shall spend their time, a man of talent tries to use it. What a man is, contributes much more to his happiness, than what he has or how he is regarded by others. Whatever torch we kindle, and whatever space it may illuminate, our horizon will always remain encircled by the depth of night. Scholars are those who have read in books, but thinkers, men of genius, world enlighteners, and reformers of the human race are those who have read directly in the book of the world. There is no absurdity so palpable, but that it may be firmly planted in the human head, if you only begin to inculcate it before the age of 5, by constantly repeating it with an air of great solemnity. No one writes anything worth writing, unless he writes entirely for the sake of his subject. I have not yet spoken my last word about women. I believe that if a woman succeeds in withdrawing from the mass, or rather raising herself from above the mass, she grows ceaselessly and more than a man. We can regard our life as a uselessly disturbing episode in the blissful repose of nothingness. Every parting gives a foretaste of death, every reunion a hint of the resurrection. If I maintain my silence about my secret, it is my prisoner. If I let it slip from my tongue, I am its prisoner. The shortness of life, so often lamented, may be the best thing about it. The safest way of not being very miserable is not to expect to be very happy. Buying books would be a good thing if one could also buy the time to read them, but as a rule the purchase of books is mistaken for the appropriation of their contents. Almost all of our sorrows spring out of our relations with other people. There is no more mistaken path to happiness than worldliness. Happiness consists in frequent repetition of pleasure. For the world is hell, and men are on the one hand the tormented souls and on the other the devils in it. For it is a matter of daily observation that people take the greatest pleasure in that which satisfies their vanity, and vanity cannot be satisfied without comparison with others. If at any moment time stays his hand, it is only when we are delivered over to the miseries of boredom. Every man takes the limits of his own field of vision for the limits of the world. One should use common words to say uncommon things. Change alone is eternal, perpetual, immortal. Compassion is the basis of morality.